Alright folks, so I'm starting a new project, and this is the FZ. Here's a walk around. All I've done so far is just clean it up. At the start we had green moss all over the top of this. It's been sitting for 3 or 4 years and hasn't been running. So I've got to get into it, figure out why it has issues staying running. But in the time that it's been sitting, a few other issues have cropped up. So just to give you a bit of a background, I've had an FZR before, which is the same as this. It's just not naked, and it has clip-on bars that are much lower. So the FZR I had was a 200. It had been upgraded, but these come as 150s. So they're 150cc V-twins. And they're fairly heavy bikes and kind of slow in their stock form. This particular one, I can just have a look over it and I can tell there are a few issues that I have to deal with. I don't know if you can hear the hissing coming from the front tire, but you can see the bubbles right here as the air leaks out. So this does not hold air. Tires dry rot over time, and so that's not really a surprise. The front brakes, it's got the FZR front brakes, the dual calipers in the front, and in my experience they stop pretty well. This one does not. All the fluid has leaked out. You could see around here where it had been leaking. I'm not sure if it's coming from the hose or some seal in this caliper. I'm not really sure. But I have to put some fluid in it and get that going and figure that out. That's a stock exhaust. It's a stock rear end, although it looks like an FZR. I'm pretty sure the naked, from the photos I've seen, the naked ones have just a seat that kind of slopes up here. So it looks like it's an R rear end. And to my untrained eye, it's mostly stock. We have some LED turn indicators, which are not. But I'll have to sort that out. It's got the single clock, and it's showing 66,600 kilometers and 6/10. So if you're superstitious, maybe this is not the bike to buy. So I'm going to get into the engine and make sure everything's fresh. You know, as long as you do some mechanical work to these, high kilometers, you know, isn't a huge deal on such an old bike. Now, I have a engine that I bought that the guy who sold it to me says that this thing is a 220cc. So the plan is to swap these heads and cylinders over to that bike, upgrade it to 220, and fix all its little issues. I assume that after years of sitting, that the fuel in this has gone bad and the carburetors are plugged up. So I'm going to start by taking the fuel tank off, cleaning the carburetors, and possibly trying to put a battery in it and see if it'll go. Stay tuned. Alright, so here's a look at the top of the engine. This right here is the Airbox. The filter, it's not a paper filter with all the folds like you would see in a car. It was just this screen with a foam filter over the top, and that had disintegrated, so I've got to clean this up, make sure that none of that gets sucked into the engine. when it starts up. Here are the carburetors right here, twin carburetors, and I'm going to assume that they are a bit plugged up because this thing's been sitting a while. So I'm going to tear that down. So check this out. This is what came out of the oil. Just metal chunks are up in here. Look at that business. Chunks of metal. We've got some serious engine issues inside of this thing. Woo-wee! Just chips of metal. I may need a lot of parts out of that extra bike. It's a good thing I have a whole engine. So here is the V-twin with the heads off of it. So we got the back piston here. Seems to have quite a lot of carbon built up on it. And if you look on the side here, you can see that it's a bit scoured. This one also a bit scoured. Quite a lot of carbon as well. The rod doesn't have play in it. It has some play side to side, but the bearings feel fairly tight. We didn't have massive bore issues. The bores seem fine. That one's got dirt dauber in it, but I mean the bores are okay. So the metal shavings that I was getting did not come from there, which means they came from in here. So to have any sort of peace of mind on this engine, I've got to split these cases. So that's my plan tonight. Split the cases and see what I can figure out. So that's it.